We have a couple of other things actually worth mentioning. Again, it's just esports really, but conflict of interest with Navi's new owner potentially.
Oh God, he said the dreaded words, guys. Conflict. That's going to be like my Chinese wallet touch. Conflict of interest. But what is a conflict? Why is that a conflict? Please stop. Please.
Well, yeah, no,
guys, I've explained it. I've explained it before.
I had this discussion already today, where it's like I was looking into this, and I'm like, okay, so. According to this article that's put through, Navi's new owner reportedly tied with GGBet and Vulcan Casino. GGBet is one of Navi's main sponsors. Was one of Navi's main sponsors, and then was changed over. 1xBet became their title sponsor, their title betting sponsor for a year, and then it came back to GGBet. And so what they're talking about in this article is that through a bunch of different Cyprus companies, because that's where Navi is housed as well in Cyprus, it has become clear that GGBet apparently are now the owners of Navi, and that now instead of it just being a title sponsor kind of situation where your sponsor is a gambling company, now it may very well be that Navi are literally owned by a gambling company. And so talk about, again, that combination of words, conflict of interest, where now all of a sudden, it's like GGBet are very involved in with other teams as well. How is it that you can avoid, how is it that this sort of thing can be permitted?
I mean, by the way, shall I just give you a few quick obvious examples of how this conflict of interest could be insane? Right, here's one for you. Right, what if they knew that Navi has a scenario like Simple's not going to play in a tournament? So what they do is this, Semler. They get everyone to make all these mad bets on the game that Navi are going to win. You give Navi like 1.3 odds for the game because it's Navi, right? They got Simple. And then right before the game, 5 minutes before the game goes live, because you own Navi, you just reveal that Simple ain't playing. All those people you just tricked into betting on the team that might lose the game now. Like that happened, remember, in the first game of Blast, like they were in a bad situation, like they were in trouble. But they lost 10 points recently, even with Simple. Like, these are things that could happen. Another one is an obvious one, which is what if the odds are so crazy, Semler, that you can, like, I'll give you an example. I'm not saying this happened, Semler. I'm not saying it. I'm saying in a hypothetical world where there was a man who's not the real Mike Tyson, he's the hypothetical Mike Tyson. If he was at the peak of his powers, not real Mike Tyson, hypothetical world Mike Tyson, at the absolute peak of his powers, you know what prime Mike Tyson was like? He used to just destroy people in one round. He used to just knock them straight out. He used to beat people so fast that people complained the pay-per-view wasn't worth buying because the fight was over in like 4 minutes, right? What if that guy gets all the money on him and some absurd underdog, like a hypothetical guy who's not the real Buster Douglas, but could be called Buster Douglas, beats him in an insane upset, and everyone who bet on Mike Tyson loses their money, and fuck all people bet on Buster Douglas anyway. Do you know who benefit the most from that? You're going to think Buster Douglas. No, the bookmaker, you fool. They've just made all the money in the universe. Well, what would happen if the bookmaker was also the manager of Mike Tyson? That's it. Now, in this scenario, I know now Ryan at Push V and certain people from the NA scene who didn't understand the Philadelphia conflict of interest would go, but why would they do that if there's so much money, right? It's irrelevant why. The point is, can they? And is it possible to police them if they have this big? No, it isn't. You wouldn't. It'd be very difficult to police this. Then secondly, there's the whole angle of like, but they wouldn't do that though. Well, you can't know that. You can't read motherfuckers' minds, and no one cares what you would or wouldn't do. Like, this is what people don't get. They think that you're making the accusation. No, what we're saying is this. You have to safeguard these things from being allowed, otherwise you open the door to this corruption. Like, basically, obviously it goes out saying a betting company can't own a team and then also make fucking wages on the tournament the team plays in. Like, think about this. How is that even allowed by Valve? Remember what Valve said most famously, Semler, to even talent as well, that you're never to bet on games, essentially. They didn't mean like talent like us. They meant more like, you know, people who are like the players, the coaches. You're never allowed to even bet on yourself. You can't do that because obviously there'd be a direct scenario where you could throw the game and all the rest of it. That's one of the reasons I buy Power got fucked, isn't it? They bet on themselves then through the game. So in this scenario, it should go without saying that like this should be like one of the cardinal sins of being in CSGO would be for a betting company to have any financial like direct interest. It's already dodgy enough you're sponsoring them. I don't even think that should be allowed, quite frankly, Semler, that a betting company can sponsor you. That's already a connection by which they could exert financial and political influence over you. The idea they can just outright own your company, lock and stock. And then if you don't know, all I'll say is this. The people who go, but they wouldn't. Why would they? What if they got caught? Yeah, what if CSGO coaches cheated? Wouldn't that potentially ruin their whole career? What if they got caught? Wouldn't they get banned for years, Semler? What if loads of them were doing it and they all ruined it? It did happen. And if you don't know, some of the names still haven't come out of the coaches. And the joke is this: I'd be quicker to name the coaches who didn't. Like my mate Zeus from fucking EG, and as far as I can tell, he didn't. That's how legit he is. Yanko didn't. That's how legit he is. Some of the other names out there who haven't even been named yet are on the list. Almost everyone was on that motherfucking list. Even, and you know this already now, your boy Zonic was in some capacity on that list. So the idea of telling me, but they wouldn't, that's irrelevant. You fools, some people will never learn until it's too late, sadly. So that whole thing, I think, this topic stinks, mate. This topic stinks.
Especially because you don't even need to be talking about rigging matches in general. You could be talking about having very specific bets on
prop bets,
winning this round, losing this round, doing one particular thing. Like now you can get so nitty-gritty with how these bets work.
You'll love this. There was a story not that long ago, Richard covered it, where during a game, a fan found out that if someone bought like the fucking Negev or something like that, that there was an insane odds. And so all the casters in the CIS region were laughing about it. And so Electronic did it in a game. That wasn't even when someone was doing any pressure. That already happened, that someone from Na'Vi rigged a fucking bet. So in this scenario, as you're saying, that we're never going to investigate if for some reason, like, someone buys twice as many AWPs if that was like a fucking prop bet. We would just think that's a game where they wanted to AWP a bit more. We'd never even be able to track that down, mate. It would be so easy because that's the other thing they all do. That's what the boneheads about Striker and them who were talking about Fragadelphia never understood. They can only conceive, because they've never looked into it and they're cretins, of match fixing as all 10 players agree, you're going to win the game and I'm going to lose. Now let's go on our personal accounts and bet all the money. That's the only thing they can conceive of because they're dimwits. They don't understand that you could even do something like, right, you win map 1, I win map 2, and map 3, maybe we even just play as a BO1 and see who wins the game. You make all your money off one bet, I make it off the other bet. We do a bunch of prop bets. I'm going to lose the pistol to you even though I'm going to win that map, so you better let me win round 3. Like, you don't even have to rig much. And in that scenario, how can you ever tell? Like, what, do teams never win their own map? Of course they fucking do, all day long. Like, there's so many ways this could be covered up. Richard Lewis, we talked about in the last episode, did an article that basically the gist of it was, you can't already stop fucking match fixing. It's already essentially impossible to stop. Well, now imagine that the companies who directly financially benefit, control, or have a controlling interest in these teams and players. Like, give me a break. Give me a break. And wasn't Na'Vi one of the companies also where it was implied, by the way, they even used the pretext of a certain world situation right now to like cut ties with people and maybe not even pay them? That was, I heard that behind the scenes. So it's not even like it's a company that hasn't got a history of dodgy stuff. Are you ready for one last detail? You can only do this when you're the esports historian. Na'Vi's already been implicated in a dodgy scenario like this. When the ES Force people, the guy from Uzbekistan, came in and he bought Virtus Pro and then he bought the media rights to Na'Vi, which if you know how teams operate just is essentially Na'Vi. Like, that's the main thing that makes them their money, is the sponsor opportunities, activations. He bought those for like $10 million or something mental, later sold it back. Also at the time, he was buying part of SK Gaming shares, and he owned, I think it was like e-gaming bets or something, e-betting or something, like some betting website, and he had Epicenter of the tournament. So he had a tournament, this happened, where SK and Virtus Pro, two teams this guy owned, played in the final of Epicenter, a tournament he owned, and you could place bets on the match, including him, and he directly profited from bets on the match with the betting company of that match. Now, again, a moron, like, so what are you saying? No, homie, you're so dumb, I'm not going to actually crush it all down into applesauce and potatoes. Come on, let the plane in, Striker. You have to figure out yourself, you clown. You're supposed to be a journalist, actually go and do your fucking job instead of asking questions on Twitter. Your job as a journalist isn't interview Richard Lewis on Twitter and find out what's going on. It's actually know your fucking job, know your role, stay in your lane. So this scenario, they already have a track record of being involved with these dodgy fucking setups. Like, it's not like Na'Vi's some spotless org that we've never heard anything from. So I think the whole thing, like you say, it just reeks to high heaven. Like, it can't be allowed, in my opinion. I don't have the power to stop it. Mainly has to be Valve who does, because let's be real, the ESLs of the world have no spine. But sadly, I do get the vibe like it'll just go ahead, won't it? It's just esports, mate.
I think that is it. I think we just have to accept that is it. We're still in that growth phase where it's just, I mean, it's not like there isn't corruption in mainstream sports either. there's always going to be corruption. There's always going to be these difficulties, but like we're not big enough yet to have like a governing body that actually determines it. And I guess, I mean, that is the thing. It's like who owns in esports, the developer owns the game. They can decide whether you're going to be able to dictate whatever happens in the game or not, as is clearly shown by Blizzard and Riot. Who owns football? It's like, okay, cool. You can have FIFA, and then FIFA decides, and blah blah blah. You know, you can go from there. So I don't see how you're going to be able to police this sort of thing in a real sense. And it is just another nail in the coffin in a sense of the integrity of the competition. But at the end of the day, are people going to care or not? Care enough and not to care enough to make a big stink out of it? It doesn't seem like that's the case at all. Because even like that article it hardly stayed on the front page of Reddit.
No one cared.
No one cared. You know, it's like I had to scroll down, and I still have to scroll down to find it. 628 upvotes.
Most people don't actually care about any corruption stuff. All they care about is drama. Like, no one really even cared when Richard put all that stuff out there about, like, or DeSoto did about the 1xBet sponsorship, that maybe they've gone bankrupt and you bet on a company that doesn't even have to pay you.
Still sponsoring ESL.
No one cares.
Graphics, 1xBet still gets shown on ESL, like live on the stream. I watched an ancient flyover, and they had put in like AR, you know, a 1xBet logo onto the map. You're just like, okay, then I guess this is still a thing. But then again, remember,
fire for you.
ESL understand how it works, because when they were consulted, when they were asked for comment about the 1xBet relationship, they were like, listen, it's just going to keep going forward, and that's all we're going to say. And they drop it because they know nobody's going to actually pay close attention to it and make a big deal out of it. They just know that they just keep your mouth shut, and it's going to blow over, and we'll just keep getting paid.
Just think about it. How could they even set that precedent at this point in time, Semler? How could they do that without looking stupid themselves? Like, how can they go, Na'Vi? Isn't it a bit fucked up, you know, morally and business-wise, to be in bed with... But oh, shit. Like, remember, think about this. Not only are they in bed with the Saudis, but here's some fire I saved for you here. I actually also know the platforms of where to do the jokes now, Semler. So you ready? Remember, this is ESL, who at this point in time, it wouldn't at all surprise you if they were like, well, and now that we've got a break, we're going to roll some content that we've revealed before. Obviously, we're bringing out our new segment, Great Memories, sponsored by the US Air Force. And we're going to have YNK and Kassad take us all the way back to 1999 and celebrate the release of the CS of 1.0 beta. What did you think we were going to celebrate from that? Like, that's about how fucking disgusting ESL is as a company at this point in time. So, like, at this point, it is just par for the course to let some betting companies be involved. It's not like you can talk shit about betting companies. You've got your own fucking corrupt one, haven't you?
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have a leg to stand on. So at the end of the day,
if you know the reference about the 1999 thing, that was fire, by the way.
That is a fucking reference and a half. Well played. Well played. GG. Actually, I was okay. Totally unrelated. Do you know Callum from Lotus Eaters? He does some.
Oh, right. Okay.
You know, and he went to Afghanistan. He did all this, but he just dropped this video about like Serbian war music, like war videos about them bragging about war crimes and shit like that from back when it was Yugoslavia and everything was blowing up. And you're just like, this whole culture. I want to message Yanko and be like, dude, is this legit? Like these songs? What's going on over there? Total aside, but that would be funny because Yanko's a fun guy when he talks about this sort of stuff.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.